to be healthier or to keep a healthy mindset whenever we approach this modern time and the digital age. So I want to read something really quick. This is provided by Health Guide, and they say that in the last 10 years, the rate of adolescents reporting symptoms of major depression, it has go up by 63%. And that's just adolescents. And later we have another 52% of adult ages from 18 to 55. Now, all of us use social media, and the majority of research have supported this idea that with the growth of the use of social media, all of these mental health issues have started to increase and become even more normal or regular for us because of all of the different content that we have access in social media. Another stat that I just want to drop here is that the experiencing of psychological distress in a given month grew 71% in young adults in the last 10 years. Even the suicidal rates have also increased 47% in the last 10 years. These are stats from United States, but it's something that we assume in some way, or we believe that it's kind of a media that is happening around the world. Now I'm doing all of this and I'm dropping these stats with two reasons. Number one is to make you aware that this is happening in the world. And like I say, I'm not doing an apology of how bad social media is, but we just need to know and be aware of what's happening around the world. But number two, and this is the most important part, is that if you feel triggered while we're talking about this topic, you can always reach out to us, or want to recommend of reaching out to counselors, psychologists, or even pastors in your church and in your cities. Because if you're actually struggling with this, we want to inspire you and we want to encourage you to actually seek out from some help wherever you are, okay? Having that in mind, I will move on. And start with this. I think this is the first principle that we can apply when we want to keep a healthy mindset approaching our social media or the digital age. And this first principle is about guarding your heart, guarding your heart. And I love this because this digital age that we're part of has given us this advantage, but at the same time, this challenge of continuous stream of information that enters to our mind. We are the most informed generation of the world. Everything is at reach. Everything is at the palm of our hand in our phones. We just can get to know about everything in the world just by typing on our phones or our web browser. So that is a very good situation. Just imagine how it was for our parents or even grandparents that if they wanted to get to know something, they will have to go to this old thing called library and then find a book that can give them some way of information about this. But how cool and how awesome it is that we have all information in the palm of our hand. But at the same time, it's a challenge age, it's a challenging era, because that much of information without any filters can become more harmful than helpful. Now, this intricacy of heart and mind make us realize that to guard our heart, we need to pay attention to what is coming to our mind. That's what Proverbs 4:23 is trying to tell us. Above all, just guard your affections, the affections of your heart, for they will affect all that you are. And then I love this next phrase in the Passion Translation. It says, pay attention to the welfare of your innermost being. From there flows the wellspring of life. I think that the first principle that we should use is to learn how to put a filter on our heart and on our mind. That's why you have that picture of a filter that you normally will use on your kitchen while you're washing the dishes, so that we cannot stop the water that we're using to wash our dishes, but we definitely can stop the food going through the hole. And I just wanted to be graphic with this analogy because I don't know you guys, but I hate to wash dishes. I'm sorry if my wife is listening to this, she will be aware. I really don't like it, but it's necessary. And it's necessary using filters so we can take care of our kitchen. But same might happen in our life. We should put filters in our mind and in our heart. Not everything that is up out there, not everything that is on social media is edifying. It won't help us. In fact, many of it will be more harmful to us than actually helpful. Now, like I said before, I'm Colombian, and we have this saying in Colombia. And I don't know if it's a saying in your countries, guy, but it's something like this: curiosity killed the cat. Curiosity killed the cat, which means that we hurt ourselves by what we listen, what we watch, or what we pay attention to something that we should not. And one way that we can stop harming ourselves or feeling discouraged or feeling stressed or anxious is about setting a guard or setting a filter in the content that we are consuming. And I'll chat a little bit about this in our last slide. The second idea or the second principle that we have is about focusing on nourishment. How cool is that Indian food that I'm seeing there? I am just getting hungry now of just looking at it. But the idea is that we should focus. We should try to put our minds on things that will edify us, that will help, that will be helpful for us, and not to focus on those things that will harm us. Now, there is an unrestricted access to information in this digital age. And we might find ourselves just consuming all type of content, including those that will or might destroy our peace, or that content that will actually arise some stress, some anxiety inside of us. Now, let me give you an example. My wife and I, we have our first kid, our first boy last January. He was born on January 23rd. And then on March, I think it was 15 or March 13 of last year, we went to lockdown here in Sydney. And we were in lockdown for the next, I think it was, how long was? 3 or 4 months, something like that. And our baby was small. He was just a newborn. And you know, the newborns, normally they don't sleep really well at night. So you will have to go try to spend some time, cuddle them, hold him for a while before you can put them back on the cot. And well, my wife, you know, normally at nights she will take care of him and she will start just feeding him. And while she was feeding him, she will just spend some time, sometimes more than she should have done it, and just watching news about what was happening around the world in the COVID season. And I remember my wife getting to this point of stress, very anxious for all the news. She actually started getting high levels of stress, high levels of anxiety, that it was being difficult for her to actually sleep at night after she would put Lucas, our baby, down on the cot, or doing anything else. Like she will spend much of her time just thinking about how Lucas could die if he get this COVID, or how we could die if we get infected with it. And it was becoming very harmful for her. So we had this conversation. I just say, well, why don't you stop focusing on the good things instead of paying attention to just the bad things that are happening around the world? And she kind of slightly changed her approach to social media and start consuming more of the good things instead of the bad things. And honestly, that brought such a relief on her life. And after just a couple of weeks, the levels of anxiety exponentially went down to a significant point where she was starting again to feel very comfortable to go to sleep, more confident at taking care of our baby, and just in general good. Her well-being just went up when she stopped consuming or focusing just on the bad things that were happening in the world. Now, let me read to you Philippians 4:8 in the Passion Translation. It says, keep your thoughts continually fixed on all that is authentic, real, honorable and admirable, beautiful and respectful, pure and holy, and merciful and kind. And fasten your thoughts on every glorious work of God, praising Him always. Why don't we start just focusing on things that are going to edify our life, to build our life? Why don't we stop consuming only the type of content that are going to help us to get better and to grow every single day? What if we focus on the type of content that is admirable, kind, and let's just in some way focus or narrow our view of social media to the type of content that will actually build us up. That's what I want to say when it comes to focus on nourishment. Then I'm going to the third and fourth principle, and we are approaching in some way the end of this content. But hey, if you have any question, please remember dropping them on the chat, and we will start try to give some answers at the end, probably the last 10 minutes. So as you can see on your screen, I have two principles here. Number one is keep perspective, and number two, or I should say number three and number four, is keep perspective and then anchor your worth in Christ. And I think this is very important because when we approach social media, we are so prone or so um, willing to just start comparing ourselves with everyone. And we need to remember that what people show on social media is not their private life, it's actually the good parts of their life. I found this phrase not long ago. I was trying to find who is like the actual author of this quote, but I heard it from Stephen Furtick, the pastor from Elevation Church, and it says the same. It says this: stop comparing your behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reels. Stop comparing your behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reels. And I think that that is the big problem of the digital age. This digital age is known by showing the best and hiding the rest. And if you look at everyone, influencers and your friends, pastors, um, everyone that is in the government, that is on social media, they will never show you the challenges of their life. They won't show you the things that are not going that well. All of them want to get followers and show the best part of their lives, which is just the good stuff. And when you compare yourself to that part of their life, especially your behind the scenes, especially your challenges, especially those things that are not working really well in your life, when you compare that to the influencers' social media accounts, we just get depressed. We just get really discouraged. And that is not fair with you. That is not fair with you. I remember following a pastor from another country, but in some way, he's an acquaintance of me. I know him. And I remember that he, every single day, he was just posting about how good his life was, or is, sorry, how good he's preaching, that he was preaching at his church, how good is his family. They do not have any challenge. They are really well at finances. Their kids are awesome. Everything is so well. And I remember just feeling so discouraged every time that I have to see something in his Instagram. And I know what, do you know what? I had to do something that is not that popular, but it was necessary for my for my health, for my mental health. I actually stopped following him because it was becoming very, very harmful for me. Now, probably the same happened to you. Probably the same. You just feel FOMO, which is fear of missing out. Um, or you can feel so inadequate about your life, your appearance when you compare yourself to someone else. Or you feel self-absorbed, like you're the only one that is going through this, or like no one knows what's happening with me. And that kind of things, it's what has raised the bar when it comes to anxiety, depression, and stress around the world. So we need to do something different, which is keep perspective. And our perspective It is to remember that we are God's masterpiece, that we are loved and accepted in Jesus. Our identity in Jesus is more important to what people can think about us. That's why I love Psalm 139:14. And you guys probably know this by heart, but it's, I praise you, Lord, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. That's what we need to remember. It doesn't matter what we're going through. It does matter, but what I'm saying is when it comes to comparing yourself to someone else, we need to remember that God loves us, that He accepted us, and He is with us all the time till the end of our lives, because He wants to build our life. He wants to make us grow so we can get to the point where He has promised for us. So let's be wise when it comes to approaching social media. And let me just finish with this fifth principle, and it is that um, we should consume, but not feeling consumed by social media. I love the idea of consuming content in social media. It is awesome. I love it. I love the opportunity of following up with my friends. I love the opportunity of building new relationships and be aware of what's happening in the world. But we should remember that much of that content could become harmful for us. Let's just read Proverbs 25:16 here in the Passion Translation. This is what it says. When you discover something sweet, don't overindulge and eat more than you need. For excess in anything can make you sick of even a good thing. I love this last part. It can make you sick even when it is a good thing. And I love candies. I don't know you guys, but I love lollies. I love candies. And it happens to me that sometimes I just eat way too much, and sometimes even more than what I need. Um, and I just get sick. But the same happened with the content that we eat, let's say, or focus on when it comes to social media. Um, so I'll give you some 4 ideas really quick on how you can get more healthy, or you can put a filter in the way that you approach social media. So number one, and this is an easy one. It sounds like very easy, but sometimes it might be very challenging. And it's number one, reduce your screen time. If you're feeling anxious, depressed, lonely, that you have sleep problems, you have FOMO, or you just feel inadequate with your life, or the way you look, appearance, honestly, research from psychologists have shown us, or have proved that by reducing 10 minutes per day, 10 minutes per day, I mean, if you're doing an hour a day on social media, by reducing 10 minutes and going down to 50 minutes a day, the levels of anxiety and depression will dramatically drop, and you will start feeling better with you. And if at the end you reduce that much the time to only 30 minutes a day, the changes on your mood and how you're feeling about yourself will change dramatically, to the point that some people will say that they feel cured from anxiety and depression and loneliness. So please put a filter on the time that you spend on your screen. It will really, really help you. Now you're probably telling me, Samir, that is so difficult. I don't know how to count the time that I spend on my social media. I normally jump on social media and I say I only look for a little bit, 5 minutes, but then after an hour is when I kind of realize that I've been going for so long. Well, seek accountability with partners, friends, family, so they can help you in this. Or sometimes just fast social media for a good time. We recommend sometimes students that are struggling with this to go on a week without social media. Try to go a week without social media so they can start seeing the changes that are happening in their lives, because these changes actually happen pretty quick when you reduce your time on screen. Number two, as I already say, change your focus to something more positive and less harmful. Um, I think that is very important, that if you feel that some type of content is harming you, that you stop looking at it. at least until you feel more confident or more mature to approach this topic. Number three is, instead of spending that much time on your screen, spend more time with offline friends. Go out, spend more time with your friends, chat with them, do it in person, one-on-one or in on groups. But the idea is that you can have physical contact or like physical relationship with your friends, more than just a virtual relationship. And then number four, and I think this is one of the most important, is to express gratitude about who you are and what God is doing in your life. Um, Positive psychology has teaches and proved to us that when we give thanks for what we have, our levels of well-being will go up exponentially and significantly. And well, we as Christians, we approach God uh, with um, with gratefulness and also with thanksgiving. And two of my favorite passages of the scripture when it comes to this topic is 100, Psalm 100, which is just come or introduce yourself to God with thankfulness, with thanksgiving. And then Philippians 4, where we found that we should exchange anxiety for thanksgiving. So doing things like giving thanks to God for your own life or keeping a thanksgiving journal will help you to even feel better with your own life. Your well-being will grow, and then at the end you will feel better with the way that you are living. So I think that those are some principles that we can use in our life to actually keep a healthy mindset in this digital age. And Sonia, you tell me what we're doing now.
Amazing. Thank you, Samira. That was so insightful and powerful. And I really hope that helped you guys and encouraged you guys and blessed you guys. We'll just jump into some questions now with the little time that we have left. Um, so we'll just, if you have any questions, keep popping them in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them. But the first question is from Diego.
Okay.
He says, does WhatsApp used for working and communication go into that 30 minutes?
Um, that's a tricky question. Let's say that because WhatsApp, it is a social media, but in some ways a different type of social media. It's a social media to directly connect with people. You're not necessarily receiving as much content as you do like in TikTok or Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, and those type of social media. But definitely a phenomena that has been happening for WhatsApp is that we start getting some type of content that many times are definitely not factual or real, and it's kind of bringing some confusion to us, especially those chains of text messages that start happening where you're part of a group and your friends just send some random uh, content. I think that that's a way that we at some point that we have to put some filter on that type of content that you're receiving from them. But if you're actually connecting with your friends, connecting with your family through WhatsApp, I'll say try to enjoy it as much as you can. But at the same time, try to build these relationships more on, like I said, spending more time with offline than actually online. That's probably the way that I'll answer that.
Amazing. And I guess what would be your advice for someone who is struggling and is wanting to seek help, but I guess might feel a bit embarrassed or think it's not really a big enough of an issue that they need to go to someone to talk about?
Yeah, I think that's one of the lies that the digital age sometimes, or even just our pride, are kind of feeding us, is that idea that oh, you should not seek out help or anything like that. You can do it by yourself, and I think that in some ways dangerous, especially when we're talking about mental health issues. If you're in this room and you're actually feeling very lonely, very anxious, or what you might say something like depressed, I think this is a time for you to seek out help. And what I mean by seek out help is talk to someone. Don't try to do it by yourself. Because sometimes when we're in these mental health issues, we can be blinded by our mood and the feelings that we're going through, which I'm not trying to invalidate them. I'm trying to empower you and empower anyone else that is listening to this to actually validate your own emotions, but at the same time seek out the counsel of someone else. So I can see that we're in different countries. I can see that there are some people from Asia, but at the same time, people from Latin America, some Australians. Um, so seeking out to your pastors might be something good. Your connect group or cell leaders, that's something good because I think that they can connect you, sorry, to people that actually might help you. But if you see that you do not trust or you don't feel comfortable talking to them because they are very close to you or they might see you every weekend, um, seeking out to psychologists or counselors are very, very good idea. I'm a psychologist. As I say, I studied psychology before coming to Australia, and I will highly recommend everyone to just reach out to psychologists uh, because they are prepared, they are equipped to actually deal with mental health issues. Probably your pastors or leaders, if you're going through a mental health issue, they won't be equipped to actually help you through it. But reaching out to them, psychologists, might be the best, the psychologists and counselors might be the best idea to do it. So do not believe the lie that you have to do it yourself. Actually, I think that Christianity in general, more than being an individual task or something that you have to do alone, it is a community project. Your growth, it is a community project. So reaching out to counselors, reaching out to your brothers and sisters in Christ, reaching out to your community, it's probably the best way to keep growing in this journey of following Jesus.
Amazing, so good. Yeah, and one final question. During the pandemic, obviously everything has become more online, and we're working online, we're talking online, everything's just completely online. It's been a lot harder to be face to face with restrictions and all that. I guess what would be an indicator for that you're engaging too much online, and how can you catch that yourself, that you've been a bit maybe too much spending too much time online, being a bit addicted to it?
Yeah. I'm sorry that really I didn't approach the session from a COVID perspective, but now that you guys ask, I think it's important that we can chat. Um, I'll be completely honest. If you're still in lockdown, I saw that there are some people from the Philippines, and I have a friend from the Philippines, and he told me that they went back, that you guys went back to lockdown in Philippines. You cannot see anyone, you cannot go out. Um, and our default is that when we're bored or in lockdown, our default is just going straight to internet, social media, our phones, or just TV, watching hundred thousands of movies or shows in Netflix, and it's okay. That's a good way to pass time. Um, but I really want to recommend you something. Why don't you set up a time in your day where you're going to be offline? A boundary, a time of your day where you're going to be online, especially with your family or especially in your own growth. So, something that I did while I was in COVID is that I set up a plan to grow. This sounds very interesting because no one is thinking on a plan to growth while you're in lockdown. But I say, well, if I'm going to spend the next 3 months, or I don't even know how long I'm going to spend locked in my house, I want to grow. I want to do something that is going to help me after I come out of lockdown. So I just started studying how to manage better my time, how to manage better my money, so I can be a better steward of the finances that God gave me. So I took some courses where I can just grow in that area. But I set up a time of the day, which it was 6 p.m., where I was going to be offline for 2 hours, 6 to 8, and I was going to chat with my wife, spend time with my boy Lucas, and just be with them. No cell phone, no chatting to anyone on the internet, WhatsApp, or any other social media. I was just going to focus on my family. That was dinner time, so I was just eating with them and chatting with them. So we said no cell phones while we're sitting on the table, and we were just chatting all the time. My grandma, no grandma, sorry, she will kill me if I say that, if she knows I said that. My mother-in-law was here in Australia while we were in lockdown, and it was just awesome to be with them, my wife, my son, and my mother-in-law, and just chatting about anything and everything. I remember having chattings about theology. What do we think? What does she believe? How can we grow? Churches back home in Colombia. How can we fix the world? What is the problem with the government in Colombia? We just chat about any topic that came in our way. But the good thing is that by chatting, we started understanding, like having a better understanding of us, of each other. So our relationship grew, and growing our relationship was probably one of the most beautiful things that happened to me. Now, for all of the guys that are here and that are married, you guys know the reputation that mother-in-laws carry everywhere. And I was locked down in my house for 4 months with my mother-in-law. But I want to say now that I love her more now after she was in lockdown with us, because we spend time chatting, understanding each other, and just doing that. So going back to the question, how can we know that we're spending it too much? Or what can we do if we're spending too much time on screen, is create a screen-free time of your day, or a screen-free area of your house. I create that. I think that might be something very helpful that you can do. And if you're a father or a mother and you have kids, actually try to do the same for them. At the beginning, they might probably don't like you for that rule, but if it becomes a culture in your house, it will last longer than just the pandemic or just the COVID time. And you will really appreciate, and your children will really appreciate that you're spending time with them. That was a long answer, but okay.
Amazing. So good, Surya. Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom and insights, being a psychologist and counselor. I'm sure it's helped a lot of people right now look at social media and look at it differently, from a different perspective, and to consume but not be consumed, as you said. That was a great little statement. But for everyone else, that is the end of the session. So we just want to thank you so much for attending. And of course, if you do have more questions, don't shy away from sending it to us. I'll just put a link where you can contact us, so that we can continue this conversation and go further with any questions you might have. And we'd love to chat with you guys and get to know you guys more. And yeah, again, thank you, Samir.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invitation. I just typed my email on the chat. And if you want to continue this conversation, you want to chat more about this topic, or even if you want to know how you can work on this, coming to college, all of that, please do not hesitate to email me, and we can continue this conversation. Awesome. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for not letting us alone in this session. So yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, guys. Be blessed.